But I may not see everything, but I will get the point. Okay, this is an interesting game, the interesting position. The Polish. One of the ideas that White is trying to do is he wants to see this e5, play bishop b2, give up the pawn. And one of the ideas is that White has traded a wing pawn for a center pawn. It's one of the reasons why the Sicilian defense is good for Black. Black is trading the open Sicilian. Black is trading a wing pawn for a center pawn. Black will have a majority of center pawns. That's one, again, the fact that Black has a majority of center pawns helps Black in the Sicilian. Why? Well, there's a lot of reasons. They're in the center. They control central squares. Okay, pawn on d6 and e6. They're performing a lot of duty for you. Okay, and that C file is very valuable for Black, more so than the D file is for White. Okay, let's see how Black handles this. Okay, he does. Now he's going to play bishop b2, and he plays d6. Okay, this is a reasonable line. But now another feature of this pawn comes into play. At some point, it's going to try to deprive the Black knight of a place to go. I've seen, like for instance, what's this? I've seen people play this move, and now they run into a little trouble. And the knight moves, and you drop this pawn. So it's a tricky opening. Okay, let's see how it goes. So both sides need to develop. Now, one thing you want to make sure you do in every game you play is get castled. Okay. Right now, White hasn't taken a step towards castling kingside, and that's usually the side of the board you want to castle on. Nothing has moved on that half of the board. Black is 2 moves away from castling. Let's see what happens. Okay, maybe White's plan is to play his queen here and castle here, and then try to launch an attack this way. I don't know. I'm just stating this from experience. Let's see what they do. Okay, now this is a unique move. One of the things it does is surrenders control of this square. This pawn formation is known as the Botvinnik formation. It can come up in a number of openings. A good strategy for Black would be to try to get a knight on e6 and c6. So this knight has to go through a little dance to get there. Sometimes he goes to e8, and they have to get there by c7. But in this case, he could bring the knight to d7, move the rook over, bring the knight back, and then he's ready to hop into e6. Trying to get some control on that square. Now, it wouldn't be necessarily a good idea for Black to play c5, because even though it's playable, it tends to hands the d5 square to White. Let's see what happens. Okay, so is this a good choice here? Maybe. But this bishop doesn't really have it doesn't seem to have a future on this unless Black is planning to break here in the center. So it's totally playable. Neither side is challenging the other. Sometimes I call this formation kind of like trench warfare. Think along World War I. Okay, there's the trench. All the White's pieces are behind the trench, and except for this knight, all the Black's pieces are behind the trench. Okay, so he wants to fianchetto. Maybe he just wants a little counter on that square. But White's still 3 moves from castling. Now, 2 moves in either direction. They're both playing trench warfare. Okay. Threatens the pawn. Now, White could consider pushing by. And now, again, White has the d5 square and Black has d4. Pushing by keeps the knight out of here. It also gives a potential pawn break up here, and White can try to activate on the A file. Now, the game is still even. Okay, neither side has got an advantage worth mentioning. Okay, so he does do b5. And black says, well, I'm going to lock things up. Now, this is an interesting move. If white takes on passant, black will have a weak b pawn. White will have a weak a pawn. Both sides would have potential play again on those files. If he doesn't lock up, the game is going to be decided on the king side. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we've frozen 3 files. Okay, it's still possible they could open up, but it's looking less likely. Okay, so here, maybe because the queen side is so safe, white should consider castling queen side. Okay, then he can advance with reckless abandon over here. But let's see what black does. Black develops something. And it's okay to neglect the king's safety. Again, there's only one piece of violating the trench warfare concept I've established. But let's also pause for a moment, look at the time. Black is taking his time here. White, not as much. But it's been a relatively easy position to play. Now, here, I'm not too keen on that move for a number of reasons. Okay, white, even though it threatens to go in here, I'm not sure if that does much for white. I'm sorry, does much for black. Why? Because remember, this is the only piece that's not playing trench warfare. The rest of black's army is not there to help. So I would say pushing f5 would be a great move. Well, maybe not. This does soften up the dark squares. And I don't mind if he plays knight e3 and trades off this bishop, because this bishop doesn't seem to have much of a future. Now, maybe black's idea is to try to push here, and this takes advantage of the defensive pin on this pawn. Let's see what happens. Okay. He's going to launch his pawn storm. Now maybe he's preparing this, but f5 might be a good move for black here. No, he wants to go in there. I don't know if this does anything. Okay, well, he's targeting this square. Neither side seems to be headed for these. Okay, so black's kind of locked up the king side too. You know, this doesn't mean white can't break through, but you got to be careful here. This knight is kind of hung out to dry now. In other words, if white wanted to move, or if black wanted to move this knight on e3, where does he put it? There's no safe square. Now, yes, is protected by this, but this one can't move necessarily without exposing this one to danger. So it's a little risky here. But I think the game still is about even. So there was no need to do this unless you want to just say, I don't like my light squared bishop. I want to trade it off. That makes some sense. Now we want to push this to a light square and activate this bishop along this line in the near future. Okay. Playable. Oh, now this is interesting. How long did he take on that move? Well, he took a couple of minutes because his 205 plus 45, he took almost 3 minutes. So it's a little risky. My first inclination is it's not sound. But we'll see what happens. White needs to take. Oh, he doesn't take. Well, let's look at it.
Check.
Only move. Now, what's your follow-up? Probably
Check.
This. Let's see. Now, white's picked up 2 pieces for the rook. And a couple of pawns. So I don't like giving up 2 pieces of work almost any time. White only has, I'm sorry, black only has 1 passed pawn, although he's got a majority on the queen side. You know, if the queens are traded, black doesn't have much to fight with. White has an extra piece, and white could also, he can probably redeploy his knights, 1 to e3 and 1 to c3, and drop 1 on d5, and that knight is there for the rest of the game. Okay, he didn't take. He decided to take here. Now this could have a drawback, in that this file opens up. Let's see what happens. Now he declines the sacrifice. I guess theoretically that trick is still there. There's going to be a knight fork with a rook on a different square, but I'm not sure what white's trying to do here. Basically, he's saying to black, okay, you want a pawn. See, you know, he's attacking here. Oh, it's defended. It's an interesting position. So black decides that he's just going to retreat his bishop. If you don't want to take it, I'm going to save it, and I stole a pawn from you. So what would be a good idea for white? Well, in theory, we want a castle, but we have to watch out for knight e3. So I would tend to come back and talk about something I did already. I would try to get a knight here and a knight here. Now it takes a while. Knight to here. We have to evict this knight so we can safely put this here, and then this one here. But I would want to get a knight into d5. Well, that just allows a fork, and you drop the exchange. So he spent almost a lot of time, about 90 seconds. He had more time. Maybe we would have seen this. I don't know. And now black says, I don't need to take yet. I still have the fork. And now he's got the right idea. So when he takes here, you want to take back with the knight, if you can. But I don't know. There's a problem. This pawn just got hung. He didn't take it. Okay, what's wrong with this? What am I missing? Okay. Because I always give you guys the benefit of the doubt as to, or I try to, what you might do here. I don't know, you're going to lose the exchange, you might as well take this. Okay, now we have some pressure down here. If we can find a way to get this queen over to the king side, there could be some attacking chances. Anyway, let's see what happens. Now, the drawback with this move was pluses and minuses. The first drawback is that we sprung this bishop loose. Okay, but there is maybe an asset. We have this square. But this is still hanging on d3. And he took it. Now, a simple way for black to continue. We could trade queens and go into probably winning ending, but I would think that taking on c4 is a terrific move. You know, even e4 is a strong move. Putting some pressure down here on c3. You know, it looks like this is turning in black's favor. Oh, he's going to do a little different. And white is now down a rook. And now black can take this. And that. And I'm sorry, but this game is virtually over. Yeah, there it is. So, you know, so white misfired with castle and queen side. And black strategy prevailed. I mean, what else can we do here? Let the sacrifice on h4 was interesting. Let's go back to that. Sorry, I went back too far. Okay, so one way to avoid the sacrifice is well, Well, we can't castle right away because he probably sees this. That might explain why he played rook f1. Okay, well, how else can we do that? Let's cover e3. Let's stop the knight from... Oh, wait a minute. I want to cover f2. I'm looking for a different way to cover f2. But I still want to get a knight into c3, or I mean into d5. Let's do this. Okay, now this sacrifice just runs into a brick wall, okay? So, whoops. So, White's idea is he wants to come in here next. Okay, now, we're going to have to delay castling. But Black doesn't have attack. Let's go and do this move I was talking about. Okay, well now I'm going to do here. Okay. Now I've covered e3. I haven't covered f2 yet. Let's see. That was one move I didn't look at.
Check.
This could be a problem. That's why I like f5 so much. Or, you know, this is, you know, we can't bring the knight here. I'm protecting over here. So, I don't know, you know, it's White's a little uncomfortable here, but Black doesn't really have much going. So it's still a tricky game here. So there was, like I said, there was one other option that we could talk about. I mentioned it. Let's look at it on the board. Okay. You know, I mentioned this. Take en passant. Now let's take back with the knight. You know, this gives the knight ideas to do this, this, and this. Okay. Black has a target. White has a target. I think in this case, White's probably going to castle kingside. See, now Black's ready to come in here. So White should play for the same thing. Watch how I'm doing this. Hey. See, it's like magic. See? Beautiful knights on both sides. That's what you want to strive for. Knights are cool pieces. You know, when you move a knight, think where you can put them next. So, you know, this gives you some ideas of things you can do with your pieces. If you're trying to figure out what to do, you don't know what to do, well, you just learned a strategy. Okay, I'm going to stop this one, and I'm going to move on to another one here in a moment.